The Wallace Center is a business unit of Winrock International and the host of this webinar. The Wallace Center has been a leading organization in the movement for a more sustainable and equitable food system for over 25 years. Today, the center supports entrepreneurs and communities as they build a new 21st century food system that is healthier for people, the environment, and the economy. The center serves the growing community of civic, business, and philanthropic organizations involved in building a new good food system in the United States. In particular, we're focused on advancing regional collaborative efforts around the country to move good food, healthy, green, fair, affordable food, beyond the direct marketing realm into larger scale wholesale channels. The National Good Food Network, or NGFN, is an initiative of the Wallace Center bringing together all of the players in the food system to make scaled-up good food a reality. Our goals are to work with the growers to ensure that there is an abundant supply of good food to meet the high consumer demand for the product, to collect and disseminate the best models, stories, methods, and outcomes, and to ensure that policymakers are informed about the wonderful successes our network and partners have had so that we can continue to increase support for regional healthy food. The NGFN Food Hub collaboration is a partnership between USDA, the Wallace Center, its National Good Food Network, and key supporters of this movement, a couple of which you will hear from today. Together, we are using our strengths and abilities to support this nascent field. The NGFN Food Hub collaboration has 4 pillars of activity. We're working with a handful of innovative hubs to bring you their stories for inspiration and replication. We support a community practice of food hubs and their supporters to enable peer-to-peer sharing of best practices and other information. You can request information about this being part of this community practice in the post-webinar survey, so please let us know. We engage in outreach and communications activities such as this webinar, our website at foodhub.info, the Regional Food Hub Resource Guide available on the web, and more. We have a database of hundreds of technical assistance providers with relevant experience. If you are a TA provider, please let us know that you would like to be included on our database. This is also in the post-webinar survey. And most appropriate to the subject of this webinar, we participate in and help to coordinate research on food hubs. Please visit our website, foodhub.info, that's foodhub.info, there's no .com or .org, and email us, contact@foodhub.info. So without further ado, let's jump into the program. Let me introduce you to Gary Madison, the Vice President of Young Beginning Small Farmer Programs and Farm Credit Council. Also, Rich Pirog, Senior Associate Director, Center for Regional Food Systems in Michigan State University, and Michaela Fisher, a graduate student at that esteemed organization. So, Rich, let me hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and it's a pleasure to be back on the webinar and talking about food hubs. I want to say good afternoon, or depending on what part of the country you're in, good morning to some of you. Just going to give a very brief framing of why we're coming together to do this, and we do have 2 studies we're going to talk about. We're going to explain why we have 2 studies. We'll explain how they're different, how they're also synergistic. We'll also talk about why it's important to have both studies and why we want to encourage you, whether you're a food hub completing the survey or if you're a practitioner working with food hubs, to learn more about these 2 studies and to engage in them. We'll share who's leading them. We'll talk about the timing and results and who to contact for more information. So that's a very brief overview of what we're going to cover, and I'm pleased that we can do this with Gary Matson and with Michaela. Oh, I don't see it. There it is. Okay, I was having a little bit of there we go. Okay, for those of you that, just to get everybody on the same page, for those that are not familiar with what a food hub is, we want to provide the definition that's in the USDA Regional Food Hub Resource Guide. This is actually a picture. The picture there is of a food hub, so we're authentic here. A food hub is a business or organization that manages aggregation, distribution, and marketing of source-identified food products, primarily from local and regional producers to strengthen ability to satisfy wholesale, retail, and institutional demand. And no, okay, there we go. So what we're going to do here is tag team the comparison of the two studies and just give you a really brief rundown of both. Then we're going to go into the national survey in more detail. Then we'll talk about, then Gary will talk about the benchmarking study, and then we'll come back and just wrap it up. So Gary and I are going to co-share this particular slide here. This National Food Hub survey is co-led with the National Good Food Hub collaboration by Michigan State University and the Center for Regional Food Systems. That's my email up there, but we'll talk about who the contact person is. The intended participants, as you'll hear, are all U.S. food hubs. We're going to cover a number of topics that go beyond the 2011 survey that was administered by the Wallace Center in coordination with USDA. An example of a financial question that we would ask here are, how were funds secured to begin the operation of your food hub? There'll be a financial section, but a number of other questions about the characteristics of food hubs. And my colleague here, Michaela, will go into more detail. This is an online survey with Qualtrics, and our outcome is to be able to characterize the food hubs and their impacts and build on the smaller 2011 survey that was done. And as you'll hear from Michaela herself, she is the point person. She's done a lot of the heavy lifting in pulling this survey together with the other partners in the collaboration, and she will be that point person. So you'll be hearing a bit more after we get a quick update on the benchmarking study from Gary.
Thanks, Rich. Down that second column of this slide that we're looking at, you'll see some of the distinctions between the Food Hub benchmarking study that Farm Credit and our partners will be doing, as distinct from the study that Rich is doing. And if we haven't gotten you thoroughly confused by the end of this, that's why we're going to post this online so we can confuse you again at a later time. But really what we're trying to do is point out here the differences. Rich is doing a very broad-based study, and what Farm Credit is doing is a very in-depth study focusing on at least 20 food hubs around the country, and we're looking for detailed financial data that will be compared with operational data. And I guess that's the real distinction between these studies, is the depth that we are going at is such as to be able to provide management benchmarks that can be used as management tools and management guides when we're done with it. The purpose of the benchmarking is to point out what the best in class are doing, and from a consultancy standpoint, what can be done to improve the results for those who wish to get better. And so a different outlook, but together I think these two studies will provide a much better understanding of food hubs as we complete these in the course of the year 2013. There we go, Rich.
Okay.
Carry on.
Jeff, the reason there's just a little bit of delay is because we don't see the arrows. So great. We may just ask you to advance the slides here. Great. Okay. So let's go or turn our attention back to the National Food Hub Survey for a few minutes. As mentioned, the Center for Regional Food Systems is actually submitting the survey in association with the Wallace Center for Sustainable Ag and the other partners in the Food Hub collaboration. It's important to note that USDA was very involved and assisted in the development of the survey as we pulled together the questions. We've been very thoughtful about these questions, and they've even been tried with some food hubs on a pilot basis to see if we're going in the right direction. The survey is currently open. It was sent out on Monday, January 28th, and our current intention is to close the survey on Friday, March 1st of 2013. Next slide. So it was mentioned in the beginning that there was a 2011 survey. This was conducted by the Wallace Center with development assistance from USDA. As Jeff mentioned at the beginning, this whole field is nascent. It's beginning. We're just beginning to really understand what's happening with our food hubs, and so it's a first attempt at really getting the characteristics and scope and scale of food hub operations. It did include some follow-up interviews with some food hubs regarding financial viability, and so our 2013 survey is building on the work in the 2011 survey, and you can learn more about that work in the 2011 survey from the publication that is on the website that Jeff mentioned about regional food hubs. Excellent publication there. Next slide. So obviously, Gary and I are on, and Michaela are on the webinar here today because we don't want folks to be confused about which study is which, and both of these are very important. They both address very critical things in the development of food hubs and around the country. With our national survey, we want to be able to increase the conversation among food hubs. We want to be able to have more of a foundational understanding of what food hubs are learning, what kind of challenges they're facing. We want to be able to take that information so that we can work with either our state houses around the country or in DC to inform policy and program initiatives that we have. And we want to be able to develop some new relationships between food hubs and investors and grant makers and other food hubs. We need to be able to speak a common language. And so this survey, and it is a pretty comprehensive survey, is our effort to be able to do this. Next slide. So as I said, the survey would build on what we did in 2011. We'll go even further into looking at financial viability, but not in as deep a sense as Gary talked about. We'll look at food access. We'll look at emerging market opportunities and many other types of questions that Michaela, and will be up in a few slides, will highlight. Next slide. So this survey provides a state of the state, if you will, of food hubs. We will report on the aggregated data after the survey is completed and it's analyzed and vetted. But like other types of surveys, we will not report on individual food hubs. We will protect the anonymity of those individual hubs. And again, to compare and to contrast with what Gary is doing, we will provide an overview of profitability, but we're not going to hone in and report on specific economic benchmarks as Gary will. Next slide. Well, this is a shout out as we look at the 99 people. Wow, we just need one more and we'll reach 100. The 99 people that are on this webinar, a number of you are not food hub operators. You may be local food practitioners, you may be educators, but you're probably interested in working with some food hubs. So we know the survey was sent out to all the food hubs that the collaboration was aware of and USDA was aware of, but there could be more. So for those that are on this webinar, ask your food hub if they've received the survey. If not, again, we'll have information on who they can contact. If it's possible, if you have that expertise within your organization or if you have expertise within other partner organizations, maybe they can help to help that food hub complete the survey if at all possible. But it is real important. We're all in this together, and the more that we know about food hub challenges, the better, I think, all of us that are trying to be able to support good food systems, the better we can provide that support. So let's go to the next slide. And I want to turn things over to Michaela Fisher.
Hi everyone, I'm Michaela Fisher. I am a graduate student here at Michigan State and I'm administering the National Food Hub Survey, and I'm just going to go over a few of the mechanics of what the survey is like. As you can see from the slide, it's between 85 and 90 questions. It's a little lengthy. It takes about 45 minutes to complete, but we wanted to be as comprehensive as possible, and that's why the length is what it is. The question categories that we have on the survey cover basic finances of the food hubs, employee types and numbers of the food hub, as well as the types and numbers of producers that are supplying the food hubs. We ask questions about local and regional aspects of the hub, including, distances of customers and producers from the hub. We ask questions about operational activities and services of the hub, what kind of programs the hub is doing as part of its business, as well as some of the challenges and opportunities that the hub faces in, performing some of those operational activities. Just a word of note that the hubs may need to have access to their financial records for 2012 to fill out some of the questions. So we have a note on the survey, but just a reminder that it might be good to gather those before the hubs begin the survey. And if you have any questions with the survey, please feel free to contact me. My email and phone number are up there on the slide. If you are a food hub and would like to participate in the survey and have not received a link to it, please email me and I will get you your individual link. Or if you work with food hubs and want to make sure that I have contacted them, please again email me with those names and contact information. We want to make sure that as many food hubs have access to the survey as possible.
Thanks, Michaela, and we're going to turn things back to Gary.
Thank you, Rich. Well, as you can see from the logo on this slide, our Food Hub Benchmark Study is a project of the National Good Food Network collaboration and Farm Credit. Of one of our key participants in this is Morse Marketing Connections. They will be instrumental in doing the distribution of this survey and collection of information, or our study. And this is certainly a different sort of creature than what Rich was describing, because this is the deep dive. This is a very confidential survey. It's generally difficult to get participants to agree to this kind of study without first making the case to participants that it's really going to benefit them in the long run. And that goes to the point of why Farm Credit wants to engage in this kind of study in the end, is that we're looking for the success and the assured future success of local food systems. And to do that, a lender needs to understand the entire marketing channel and to be able to assess the risk of lending to a producer on one end, or if we were able to lend to the food hub itself. The idea that everybody benefits from such a benchmarking study is best seen by actually taking a little bit of a tour of a benchmark study to be able to understand why it does what it does. And the best operators out there of any kind of business, any kind of ag business that Farm Credit deals with, really want this kind of information. And Farm Credit East, who's the key partner within the Farm Credit system for accomplishing this study, has done benchmarking studies for agricultural producers in such areas as dairy and wineries and ag retail and cranberries. Each sector of agriculture has the capability to participate in a benchmark study if the financial information of the producers is up to the challenge. And in this case, for food hubs, because they are typically a higher volume business dealing in large number of dollars as far as gross sales, the possibilities for having very good financial records are pretty high. So we're going to hope to tap into that capability of food hubs. But understanding what goes into a benchmark perhaps can give a better picture of why it's useful to the participant. And the main point is to understand that it's not just the financial information, but it's operational information. And the real benefit of a benchmark is to be able to compare the two, to be able to come up with financial information that is directly related to, well, what we'd usually call it for a farm benchmark study, for production information or the operational information. And I'll give an example of that in just another couple of slides. So characteristics of a benchmarking study, first and foremost, is standardization. And you would think that that's the wrong way to go. Well, there can be variation in the different food hub operations that are studied, for instance, being a for-profit or a non-profit as the operator of the food hub. But the standardization really speaks to the gathering of the information. For instance, when determining how much labor, how much money or the cost of labor for a given food hub operation, one has to be sure that you're looking at the similar classification of labor. In other words, are we talking about a warehouse employee? Are we talking about a bookkeeper? Are we talking about a manager? And it's teasing apart that sort of information, particularly in a small food hub operation where somebody may be wearing more than one of those hats. That's where the skill of collecting the information really comes through. I can't emphasize enough that each operation's data is confidential. We would be using the standard contract that Farm Credit East uses that establishes an enrollment agreement which contractually obligates the parties to share the information and to keep that information confidential. It's not just handing over the financial statements, because there's a great deal of production information that has to be collected also. A whole lot of things can be tracked. This is kind of a generic list, I suppose, with a few key things at the end. Something as innocuous sounding, or as confusing sounding even, as invoice per delivery stop, the second to the last bullet. In a wholesale delivery business, in essence what many food hubs are modeled on, that how much is sold per delivery ends up being a key component of being able to describe the profitability of the operation. It's discovering the relations between the many things that are on this slide that can be tracked that really end up being the real benefit to the participants of the survey, is to find out the unusual relationships between the financial and the operational aspects that are collected in a benchmark study that really provide the depth of understanding of a particular type of business. So do food hub participants know what their biggest expense is? Well, probably. I would not hesitate to say it's probably labor, and as far as a variable expense, and beyond, of course, if they're buying the foodstuffs from farmers. But what is it that a food hub should do in trying to manage a cost like labor? Is it the right thing to just say, well, we're spending too much on labor, let's fire somebody? And again, these are slides that will be available for your review and downloading later on. I'd encourage you to come back to this slide just as a quick example of how understanding the information from a food hub benchmark study can be put to use in actually managing at the operational level, at the business level. And of course, these I don't have benchmarks yet, so when you see the benchmark on this slide is under that first bullet, the cost per worker equivalent is, the benchmark is $30,500. I made that up, okay? Don't come back to me and say it's how did you know that? I made it up. As are all of the the figures on this slide as just to provide an example of how to get to the point of understanding that if your cost per worker is in the right place, an average amount, and if your hours worked per delivery is an average amount, but you're still not anywhere near the benchmark of how much is your food hub selling per worker equivalent, then the answer is probably not firing your labor force, because they're already pretty darn efficient and you're spending an average amount to hire them. The real culprit here may be that you need to increase sales. That sort of relationship between operational information of how many hours are being worked and the financial information of gross sales per employee, a relation of those two, gives a very actionable figure for a food hub to try to understand its business and be able to plan for the future. Most of all, engaging in a benchmarking study like this requires confidence on the part of the participants in their own record keeping, and also in their the organization that is running the benchmarking study, which in this case would be Farm Credit. And as our place in the agricultural field is to be a lender to agriculture, to farmers and ranchers and their cooperatives, we're very used to dealing with confidential financial information. That's the nature of the business that we're in, and I hope that if there are potential participants listening in, that you will make yourself known to me at the end of this webinar, or certainly by email. My email will be on the next slide here, to let us know that you are interested in participating in such a study, to be able to gain the benefit of being a participant, a confidential participant, and be able to, in turn, by Farm Credit being able to share the aggregate information, the aggregate benchmarking information upon completion of the study, you as a food hub participant will be helping the success of food hubs and the local food system effort across the entire country. So now we're on to our comparison again, and I'd start out by saying, reminding everyone that the title of this webinar was A Tale of Two Food Hubs, and with apologies to Charles Dickens, we're in the best of times and the worst of times, and we're at a point, as Rich and Jeff have said, that food hubs and local food systems are at a point of expanding rapidly, and their financial performance is unfolding in front of us, and we need to understand that. And that's why we're heading at this in two separate efforts in pretty much the same direction. Rich, do you have other comments to share about that?
Just the reminders that you see in front of you, and to reinforce what what Gary has said. Oftentimes, we're trying to be sensitive here. We know that sometimes you're busy doing your thing, and all of a sudden you'll get two surveys or two people wanting you to be involved in a study, and they both sound like the same thing, or they have the same words. And we want you to know that through the Food Hub collaboration, that we are actually communicating. We're trying to get a better handle on who's doing this work, and we did this webinar intentionally so that those that are out there that have already gotten the national survey from Michaela could, if you hear about the other study, you'll be able to say, I know the difference now. I know what each one is doing and how they complement each other. So again, we're trying to do this and to be proactive, to be serving you all better, and also being able to move work together in a more cooperative fashion than just everybody doing their own thing. So this is our last slide, and we want to again thank Jeff and the NGFN Food Hub collaboration for sponsoring what we've pulled together here. And Jeff, would we turn things back to you?
Sure, thanks. I'm going to leave this slide up here. It has the contact information, and there some questions have come in, so why don't we start in, and let me encourage you all, if you have questions, type them into our questions box. I have a question for you, Michaela.
Sure.
The question is, can you complete the survey in installments by saving your answers and returning to work on it again later?
That's a great question, and you certainly can. The software that we're using, Qualtrics, to build the survey has it so that you can start the survey, go as long as you want to, close your browser window because you need to leave and go do something else, and as long as you access the survey again using the same link, all your questions will be saved and you can just pick up where you left off.
Excellent. Peter asks if the survey includes questions for the buyers using the Food Hub.
It has questions concerning the buyers who use the food hubs, what kind of types of institutions they are or people and their location from the food hub, but not questions for the buyers themselves.
Okay. There's a question about when it's appropriate for a food hub to, appropriate in the stage of a food hub's development. Is it appropriate to participate in the benchmarking study? So is a one-year-old food hub, is that a good target for the food hub benchmarking study?
Well, ideally there would be 2 or 3 years of financial results, but we realize that's probably not possible in all cases. If you have good financial records and you've got a full season under your belt, I'd certainly like to talk to you about participating.
Okay. I think this is a question for both studies. Maybe Rich, you'll start here. Do you plan on collecting this data on an ongoing basis for food hubs that pop up in the future? And yeah, that's it. Or is there what is their repetition? Yeah. And is there also, let me add, is there a sense that you want to do longitudinal study?
Well, the short answer is that we would like to be able to conduct the national study every other year. That's based on the conversations that have already happened in the collaboration and our conversations with Wallace and USDA. That would, so that over time we would be able to make those comparisons. And Michaela may want to say a word or two about that, because there's some questions that would be sort of like baseline questions that we included this time, so that if we come back and ask those questions, we could make some comparisons. Michaela? Yeah,
that's exactly right. Rich, we do ask questions about, revenue over time, funding sources, expenditure sources, and it will be interesting for us to see on aggregate how those change over time. So we did set up the survey with the thought that we will be able to continue it.
So for example, I think we learned in the 2011 survey that a significant number of the food hubs were grant funded.
Yes. And
we would expect to see, with the maturation of this work over time, perhaps to see the amount of grant funding actually decrease as food hubs become more mature as a phenomenon out there in supplying the needs of good food.
John asks about the definition of food hubs. So I brought the slide back up that has the NGFN Food Hub collaboration definition, which USDA is part of NGFN Food Hub collaboration, so Also USDA definition. Jennifer asks, what is the time frame for providing information for the benchmarking study?
The information, assuming that means collecting the information, we'll be starting to collect the information probably in March of this year, and would expect that phase would go through June, and then reporting anticipated by August. So we're looking at the beginning of this year to be collecting information and have the study done before the end of this year. And the scope of that information, again, if there's more than 1 year of financial results, that would certainly be better.
Mm-hmm. And there was a question about how the study will be publicized. It'll be on foodhub.info. We will likely in August, September timeframe also have a webinar to present the results and how you as a hub or supporter of hub can interpret the results. Another question about the benchmarking study, are you also intending to capture information about customer usage and sales using a food hub?
The benchmarking study at this point includes questions about the farmer side of the equation, as far as the number of farmers that Food Hub is buying from, that sort of thing. As far as the customers, presumably wholesale volume customers, those are anticipated to be sorted by the type of customer, type of institution, for instance, school, hospital, restaurant. So the answer is yes, and sorting in both directions, both the input side and the sales side.
Okay. Lauren asks, what is the most common type of food hub? Talking about the ownership, farmer-owned or private business-owned. And what we found in the 2011 survey is that more often than not, food hubs are privately owned or are nonprofit led by entrepreneurs. So there are several farmer cooperatively owned food hubs, but the majority, the more common type is not. There's also a question from a researcher as to if the NGFN Food Hub collaboration is interested in collaboration, and the answer is yes. We'd love to talk to you. That would be great. The best way to contact the NGFN Food Hub collaboration is contact@foodhub.info. Again, that's a .info. It's not a .com or a .org. Okay. If there are any other questions, that's the majority of questions that we've received. Please type in your questions. Katerina asks, are there any known publicly owned or public-private food hubs? The answer is yes. It's the least common arrangement, but we do know of a couple. One interesting example is Eastern Market in Detroit. The land is owned by the city, and it's managed by a nonprofit organization. And there's coordination there, but there are other examples.
And Jeff, to that point, I'd point out that it matters less the ownership structure of the food hub as far as financial benchmarking, because the performance measures would really be irrespective of the ownership structure, whether it's an individual or corporation or a nonprofit. What is done as far as the economic efficiency of buying material in and breaking it down and redistributing it should be very similar no matter who owns it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's an excellent point. John asks, where can we find a list of active food hubs? If you go to that website, foodhub.info, we do have a list and map of all the food hubs that we know about. If you are a food hub and you find yourself not on that list, towards the top of that page we have a link to a questionnaire, so you can let us know about yourselves. And also, if you, regardless of if you're on that list or not, please make sure that you complete the Michigan State survey.